Okay, so here's part two. Hopefully, a little more organized. When I get emotional, it seems like everything just goes all wonky. But my cat was over there in the litter box. Of course, just as soon as I'm all emotional and making this about Matthew 20:22, the cat has to use the litter box. And that cat does not use, just never mind. So, getting back to Matthew 20:22, to drink the cup that I shall drink of, the words that follow, to be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with. And I'm going to go down to, I'm just going to read little excerpts here from Matthew Henry's. And it says, Christ leads them to the thoughts of their sufferings. It is a bitter cup that is to be drunk of, a cup of trembling, but not the cup of the wicked. It is but a cup. It is but a draught, bitter perhaps, but soon emptied. It is a cup in the hand of a father. John 18:11. Baptism is an ordinance by which we are joined to the Lord in covenant and communion, and so is suffering for Christ. And Ezekiel 20:37, which I'm also reading in. Amazingly enough, I'm reading simultaneously Ezekiel and Matthew. And it's also in Isaiah 48:10. Baptism is an outward and visible sign of an inward and spiritual grace, and so is suffering for Christ, and for unto us it is given. Philippians 1:29. But they knew not what Christ's cup was, nor what his baptism. Those are commonly most confident who are least acquainted with the cross. Nothing makes more mischief among the brethren than the desire of greatness. And I was saying, if without this suffering, this like Apostle Paul went through and I'm going through, you'll see people, they toot their own horn. They talk about how honorable they are. And it's almost mind-blowing. And they will put people down. They would have put Apostle Paul down had they been alive during that time. They would have been one of the ones, It's mind-blowing. But they know nothing of the suffering of the cross, not really. So it says, nothing makes for more mischief among the brethren than desire of greatness. And we never find Christ's disciples quarreling, but something of this was at the bottom of it, that a man who labors most diligently and suffers most patiently, seeking to do good to his brethren and to promote the salvation of souls, most resembles Christ and will be most honored by him to all eternity. Our Lord speaks of his death in the terms applied to the sacrifices of old. It is a sacrifice for the sins of men, that is true and substantial sacrifice, which those of the law faintly and imperfectly represented. It was a ransom for many, enough for all, working upon many, and if for many, then the poor trembling soul may say, why not for me? So, just my own thoughts. This baptism that I've been baptized with, this baptism of suffering, just weird stuff, Job stuff that shouldn't even be happening, and suffering at the sword, the wounds of the words of other people who call themselves Christians, and at their carelessness and at their lack of empathy and love, and at their willingness to go across any line, because they have not ever faced this kind of baptism of suffering to where they're really terrified. Like if somebody sent me a link to somebody and it had their information and I could have access to them talking on the phone and what they do in their private life. See, I've been through this baptism of suffering, been near this nearness with Christ. And if I even looked at it, do you think I would continue on to keep looking at it? Or like this, let's look at it this way. Do you think that, especially if somebody said, hey, don't do this, it hurts me, that I'm going to continue doing that? But that's what these Christians do. They have no idea of what kind of suffering is involved. They just want the fruit of that suffering. They want to steal it so they can put it on their channel, use my words or use somebody else's words. That's the truth. They're looking and sniffing around for something to make themselves look big, look great, and to appease their following. It's almost mind-blowing. And these people literally believe that they're going to get into heaven. They really believe that they are in the right place with God and that they have a right to do this to another human being. You have no idea the kind of baptism of suffering that's going to be coming upon the people, upon you especially. You think you got by with it. You think that you won't reap what you have sown. But it comes back, people. It always comes back. And when this baptism of suffering comes, and it's your turn, what will you do? Will you be able to take it? If it may mean the rest of your life that you're bedfast, that you may just end up in a ditch sleeping because that's the only place you could walk to close enough. That's about as far as you could get. And then, after you have this baptism of suffering, you're not going to be so quick to jump up in somebody else's pain and take part in the participation of a ritual of shame that was put upon me. That's what you did. You took part in a satanic ritual of shame to try to shame somebody, to shut them up. And not only did you do that, but you stole everything you could steal to use it to make yourself look good. That's how crazy all this has got. And these people call themselves Christians. And these people really literally believe that they're going to make it when that rapture comes, or when they die. If they get out and die today in a car accident, they literally believe that they were given a free rein to do whatever they want, a license to sin, a license to hurt whomever they wanted. No, I'd rather go ahead and just keep my baptism of suffering, because it's taught me well, and I'm still learning, and I still might make mistakes. But mistakes is one thing. When you've done this for year after year after year, knowing that somebody has been a victim of other people's just viciousness, and you took part in that, and then you call yourself a Christian, you better be afraid. You better be very afraid, because it's going to come back on you. You'll see. I know you don't believe it, but you just watch and see. You go ahead and keep your channels and fluff yourself up by somebody else's suffering and steal their word when you know that they have got that word by much suffering and seeking the Lord. But you want it on your channel, don't you? You want to look good, don't you? You want to be something special, don't you? Well, you get your little moment. You'll get your little moment of fame. But you know what? You're not going to get heaven, and you're not going to get Jesus. No matter what you think, you will not get Jesus living that kind of lie and that kind of life. Jesus sees what you're doing behind the scenes. I still love you. I forgive you. But I want you to know you will answer for what you have done. It is that vile and wicked and evil.